Okay.
It's going to be filtered now.
Perek Gimel Mishna Beis. Perek Mishnah Beis. So we started this yesterday, and we talked about our idea that, and this seems to be obvious to the Mishnah, and logically it is obvious, that if two people come to court, or two people decide on arbitration, they can pick anyone they want to arbitrate. They can, just like I can say, you win the case, I agree to forego my rights, to claim the money, or I'll give you the money that you claim. I can agree not to go to court. I can also agree to any court system I want, if we both agree. Okay? So we can agree to toss a coin, we can agree to choose your father, my father, your mother, my sister, 3 football players. We can do whatever we want. Okay? That's not the issue of the Mishnah. The issue of the Mishnah is whether we can change our mind afterwards. Oh, I agreed to 3 cowboys, but come on, I realized these guys, I thought they would side with me, or I thought they knew what they're talking about. I find out they don't know anything, right? So can you withdraw? Now, obviously, at some point you can't withdraw. Well, there's no point in making an agreement that you can just withdraw out. That's silly. No one's going to be in agreement. So the question is, usually what stops a person changing his mind in Jewish law? When I agree to do something, what then obligates me to do? At what point? Just because I said I'm going to do it? No.
Really, this can count as like
Jewish law.
So we always say
no. Okay, there's a thing like a neder, but that's a very from a religious aspect.
Okay.
Right? But I'm talking from a legal aspect. I mean legal Jewish law. But there's 2 aspects of Jewish law: the legal side and there's the spiritual side. Okay. So if you make a neder, then you've got to keep your vow. If I didn't make a neder, I say promise. I say, you want to buy this? I'll send you my phone for 500 shekel. You go to your room to get your 500 shekel. You come back. I changed my mind. I didn't promise I would sell the phone to you. I agreed to sell the phone to you. So is my agreement binding or not? At what point? So usually the rule in Jewish law is my word is not binding, although you're considered a unreliable person if you back down on your word. Okay, but that's up to me. You'll decide not to do business with me in the future. I'll get a bad name, but that's up to me. I can prepare to accept this bad name. But legally, I couldn't change my mind until you do a kinyan. Kinyan means you do some act of taking acquisition. Now that can take many, many forms. For example, that's the usual way. I want to sell this Gemara, so I'll give it to you, and you pick it up. Now it's yours. Now even though you didn't pay me yet, we agreed on a price.
It's called kinyan.
That's called a kinyan.
Acquiring.
No, but it's an act of acquiring. It's a Maisa kinyan. The kinyan is actually a transfer of ownership. But you don't have to pick up. There's other ways you can get ownership. If you pay me, let's say you pay me the money, right? So now it's yours, even before you took it. I can't change my mind and now say, oh, Dylan wants to pay me more for it, I'll give it to you. No, it's already his. Okay? So there's lots of, now let's say the other way around. He didn't pay, you took it, you did a kinyan, now it's yours. And now Dylan says, how about I give you twice as much? Too late, it's already yours. Even though you haven't paid me yet, it's already yours.
What about if you write it down?
So writing it down and then giving the document to the buyer works, I think it only works on property. There's all sorts of different rules. Kiddushin, most of Maseches Kiddushin, the first part of Kiddushin is all about that. It happens to be about how you get married as well. But it's not really the focus of the Masechta. Right? You think Kiddushin is all about women. That's not all about women. The first perek starts about how you acquire a woman, meaning how you get married. What's the act that transfers her in the sense of making her your wife? The answer is you give her a ring and you say Hariyat B'Kudeshesli. Or you write it down, Hariyat B'Kudeshesli, and you give it to her. Okay? Or you can have sexual relations with her, also does it. Right? Right? You can't have sexual relations with an animal and say it's now yours. Besides the fact it's an Aveira. I'm saying it happens to be it's an Aveira to have sexual relations, but it won't make it yours either. The way you acquire an animal is either by dragging it along the street, means taking it for a walk, or by picking it up, right? Or by paying. Each different type of item has different rules. The rules are usually it's either property, has one set of rules, or it's movable items, or it's an animal, or it's a human being. How do you buy a slave? There's also that's what Kiddushin is all about. Okay? So now, that's when but the same is true when you make an agreement, not just when you buy something. If we make an agreement that I agree that you win the case. Let's say we both come to court, we've been in it a long time, and you say, okay, I've had enough, you win. But that was just my word. I can change my mind. Just because I said it, right? So it's more complicated than that. Right?
It's not set in stone.
Let me give you an example. If you owe me money, okay, and I say, keep it, I don't have to do any more than that, because I'm not actually transferring ownership. I'm saying that the money you have in your pocket, which is yours, you don't have to pay me. That's called being moichel. If I actually want to transfer ownership, it belongs to me, and I want to transfer it to your ownership, then I have to do some type of act. You have to do the act to make it yours. If I'm just saying you can keep what's yours and you don't have to pay me because you borrowed money, let's say, right? Then my word is enough. I don't have to do any more than that, because I'm not actually transferring ownership over there. I'm just foregoing my rights to claim it. Now, in court, you can have both systems. Let's say I take you to court and I say you owe me money, and then after a while we agree. We could agree one of two things. We could agree that I'm going to pay you, or I could agree that you're not, or I'm not going to pay you. We could agree either way. If we agree if you agree to forego your rights, which means I won't have to pay you, there's no need to make actually formal act of acquisition, because we're not saying that I'm transferring something to you, saying I no longer have to pay you. So just like if I say you owe me money and I say, oh, you don't have to pay me, that's the end of the story. The same thing, we will go to court and we agree that you won't, that you have no claim. Both agree you have no claim. Once we've made such an agreement, that's the end of the story. But let's say the other way around. We agree that I'm going to pay. I said I've repaid you, and today I've paid you. Whatever. Okay, I'm going to pay you, and I agree to pay you. So even if I agree to pay you, I can back down from that, because you want me to give out this money. You want this money to become yours. You have to do an act of acquisition, just like to make this phone yours. You have to do an act. The same is true. If you want me to now be liable to pay that money to you, you're going to have to make some type of action. It can be, now you can't pick up the money. Right? There's other ways to do it. One of the ways of action is called a kinyan chalipin. So let me just explain what that is. The most ancient form of acquisition we were taught in history is, how do people deal in business before there was money?
Trading.
What was it called? Barter. Trading, right? You had sugar, I had milk, right? I give you one, and you give me the other. So that, in Hebrew law, that's called chalipin, which means I can trade with you and transfer ownership, even though I didn't pick your item up at all. But what I did was I gave you something instead of it. I gave you a cow, and you agreed in place of that cow, you'll give me a donkey. But the donkey, you've got the cow now. You did an act of acquisition on that cow. The cow's now yours. Automatically, the donkey's mine. Even though I didn't touch your donkey, I didn't move it. You can't change your mind about the acquisition because you took the cow. Automatically, the donkey's mine. That's called chalipin. Okay. So, in Jewish law, they developed a symbolic barter. And that's the way to call it.
Yeah.
Symbolic barter. Let's say I want to buy your field. So, the real way is we have to go to a lawyer. Either I'll pay you, or we'll write a contract, or we'll do both, right? Or I'll actually go to the field and start using the field. I'll plow the field, mend the gate, bash a gate down or something. I do something to the field with your permission, of course, right? You're selling to me.
Put a sign there.
Those are three ways. I don't know if the sign works. Those it could be, but I think it has to be either protecting the field or unprotecting. Those are three ways that they developed over the years. Another form of which is symbolic barter. How do you do symbolic barter? You'll see this done the whole time. I'll give you something of very meaningless value, and you'll agree to give me your field. Now, real barter was I'll give you a shipload of potatoes and you'll give me your field, right? Or I'll give you 15 weights of gold, whatever. That's real barter. Symbolic barter is where I give you something of very little value, but we agree to swap based on that. And I'll pay you some other time. Or I won't pay you because you agreed to take very little, whatever. But the payment is not coming into payment isn't part of the discussion. How much I pay you, am I going to pay you? We've agreed to that or not agreed to that. But paying isn't the point. I'm not paying you now, I don't have the money on me now, but I want to take ownership of your field so that you can't back down. What we do, I don't have a lawyer to write the contract. I don't have the money on me because I don't have cash, right? Your field's in Australia, right? So I can't go there and plow it until I get to Australia. But I don't want you to have the right to change your mind. And you don't want to have the right to change. We agree on that. Okay, so how can I take ownership of your field? I don't have a pen or paper or lawyer to write the contract. Okay? I don't have money because it's $100,000 and it's going to take me years to raise that money. I don't have the money, right? And I'm not here to do it, so I can barter. How do I barter it? What do I have to barter? So what do I do is I give you my kippah. Here.
Okay.
You take my kippah. Okay. You take ownership of this kippah, which means you lift it up. It's now yours. And now your field's mine. That's it. That's called, we call that, it's like a symbolic barter. I bartered your field for my kippah.
It's not like a security deposit?
No. What do you want? My kippah's not worth anything even. Or security.
But let's say you did owe me money, but you're like, no, like I say in 2 years you have to give me the money. In 2 years, but you're like, remember the kippah I gave you?
Oh, that's something else. I'm not agreeing that the kippah should be payment for your field. No, I still owe you the money. We've agreed that. It's not a question of how much I owe you. It's a question of, does the field belong to you or to me?
Okay.
If it belongs to me, I owe you the money, right? Now the difference will be very important. Now somebody discovers oil on your field, right? And you say, "Oi, I sold it for $10,000 worth $10 million." Too late. You can't change your mind because it's already my field. Understand? I don't have to pay you any more because I pay you the amount we agreed upon. But it's only because it became my field through that act of activity. What was that act? I bartered your field for my kippah. But it's only symbolic. We both agree there isn't the value. But that's the way that's one of the ways of transferring ownership. It's called real barter. It's called chalipin. Symbolic barter is called sudar. Sudar means a handkerchief or a headscarf. Because the traditional way was to use your sudar. You took your kippah off, right? Well, not your kippah, whatever. You took your head covering off. In those days, lots of people didn't wear head covering. It wasn't so common amongst Jews. Rabbis used to have head coverings. Or you had a head covering if you wanted to make a bracha, or you wanted to learn Torah. But stam, it wasn't so widespread for Jews to cover their heads.
So everyone just kept a kippah in their pocket, and when they want to make a bracha, they...
I'll tell you, I know that the leader of the community in Gibraltar, very, very well-respected man. He's very, very religious, but he doesn't wear a kippah. He wears a kippah in shul, in synagogue, he keeps it in his pocket. It's so funny, you watch this. I was shocked the first time I saw it. He's well known. I ate in his house, his children learn in yeshiva, right? And he comes out of shul, takes his kippah, puts it in the pocket, walks down the street. And he goes to work. He's a lawyer, very high-powered lawyer.
Ashkenaz?
Right?
Sephardi.
Right. The concept of a kippah being a universal thing that all Jews do is more widespread in Ashkenazi countries than in Sephardi countries. And the reason is because it was always a custom amongst rabbis to wear a kippah, and people, because they're learning Torah. And when you learn Torah, or say a bracha, right, or daven, you have to wear your head covered. You say God's name or that sort of thing. It became more universally accepted in Ashkenazi countries because it became a goyish custom to take your kippah off. Means a goy would take his hat off as a sign of respect. You go to church, you take your hat off. Okay? You go to someone's house, you take your hat off. Right? You don't sit around with your hat on. It's not considered respectful. You take your hat off when you go to church. So because of that, it became a Jewish thing to do the opposite. The sign of respect is you keep your hat on. And that's why it developed more in Ashkenazi countries than Sephardi countries, because Muslims, it's not Ashkenazi and Sephardi, it's actually more Muslim and Christian, right? In Muslim countries, they always had their head covered. So it wasn't a non-Jewish thing to have your hair uncovered, so we didn't make a big thing about it. That's why in Muslim countries, Jews were more, it could be they had their hair covered because that's what everybody did. Right? It wasn't like a Jewish practice.
Sounds like you didn't want to look like Muslims, that's why we didn't wear kippah in Sephardi countries.
Maybe.
So wait, but that's still a rabbinical decree that to walk...
There's no, go on.
Not decree, but like, there's a Isser D'Rabbanan to walk 6 feet without a kippah, right?
Yeah, not really.
Really? I could walk around my door and brushing my teeth, going...
You shouldn't, but there's no, I don't think it's prohibited.
It's not, really?
And like I say, it's more, now it's become more acceptable. And now
accepted minhag.
Accepted minhag, but it's not. I don't think there's any rabbinic decree against it. Yeah, you're not supposed to, correct. You're not supposed to walk around with a kippah without a kippah. But, why are we talking about this?
Trading property and
right. So
because people would say
that.
So this whole idea is recorded in the book of Ruth, and towards the end of the book of Ruth, where he's trying to trade his. If you remember the story there, he wants to buy a field that's been sold of Elimelech. Elimelech was the owner, a big landowner, and he went over. There was a famine in the country. He went abroad. By the time he came back, his family were poor. His wife, he died, and his sons died, and his wife was poor. She was penniless, and she had to sell her property to raise any money. And then somebody in the story, one of the family members wants to buy the property back so that it should stay within the family and not become lost to the family. So let's describe the way in which he did it. It says he took his shoe off. Now people think that shoe's got something to do with chalitza. It's a big mistake. It's got nothing to do with chalitza. Chalitza is the process, right? There's no chalitza going on over there. Absolutely, it's a complete mistake. There's nothing to do with chalitza. What was going on there is he just used the, in those days they didn't use a kippah, they used a shoe. It could be anything. Any item you own of vital value, you give over to the guy, and he takes it, and now he's bartered the thing. Usually the guy gives it back. What are you going to do with my kippah? Right? You got your own kippah, you don't need my kippah, right? So usually you'll see that after doing this symbolic barter, the guy gives the kippah back. He doesn't have to, but he doesn't need your kippah, doesn't want your kippah, right? So now, if you watch it now, this is not only when you barter a field, it's when you make any commitment. So if you make a commitment that you're going to give to your wife $10,000 if you ever divorce her, you're making a commitment.
Prenup.
Right? That's called exuva. No, that's not prenup, it's exuva.
It's prenup day.
I don't know. Something else. I don't know what it is. I don't know what
So
it
if I divorce you, I give you X amount of money.
is. No, that's exuva.
Because
The prenup is that if you ever refuse to give me a divorce, then you will be liable to court proceedings or something like that. Prenup agreement is to prevent the husband from refusing to give a divorce. If the wife has a right to a divorce, the husband won't be able to refuse. And if he does, then he'll have to be fined in some way or be put in prison or whatever. And he agrees to that. That's a prenup. I think that's what the Ray Exuva is just straightforward. He agrees that if he ever divorces her, or when she dies, and now his estate is left to his descendants, not to his wife, she will be entitled to a certain amount. Okay, and that's what you write. Now, in order to commit yourself to that agreement, you do the same symbolic thing. If you look at a wedding, you'll see the rabbi takes somebody's kippah, one of the witnesses, that's what he does, and he gives it to the bride, to the bridegroom, and he says, lift this up, right? With that, you are committing yourself to the agreement. Because what's really happening is the witnesses are doing this kippah on behalf of the bride. Right? They say to the bride's father or to the bride, take this kippah, it's now hers. So she lifts it up, it's now her kippah. Right? And then
prenup is a ketubah. It says it's a legally binding contract made by a couple before they get married, outlining their assets, debts, and property will be divided in the event of divorce or death. It's a ketubah.
okay. So, but it's not okay. So then why do you call it prenup? Why do you call it ketubah?
It's like a non-Jewish version.
Okay, so that's not what we mean. When people talk about prenuptial agreement, they mean, the word prenup just means what you do before the wedding. Before getting married. Okay, so you don't mean that because there's already a ketubah in place. In rabbinic circles, prenup means some additional agreement that prevents him from taking advantage of her and saying, if I divorced you, you will have to forego your ksuba. Some guys do that. Ksuba is the agreement, the amount he promised to pay her.
Oh, right.
If he gets divorced. So before he gives him divorce, he says, I'll divorce you on condition that you forego your rights to the ketubah. Right? So the prenup prevents him from doing that sort of thing, from taking advantage of his position. Anyway, back to the story. Okay, so that's what you'll see them do at a wedding. You'll see them do that sort of thing, right? They take the kippah, they give it to the bride, and then she sends it back to the bridegroom, and he picks it up, and by doing that, he's bartering. He's saying, "Oh, I have your kippah, and now I promise to give you $20,000 if I divorce."
When?
Right? Or if I know, right? If I divorce, right? Or if I die, he'll take it from my estate. But it's a way of ratifying a verbal agreement. You usually do some type of action. So if I want to take your phone, I just pick it up. Right? If I want to promise to give you $20,000, what do? I don't pick up the money. I don't have the money, right? What I do is I do this type of what's called a kinyan suda. So now, usually that's what makes an agreement binding. Okay, so if we come to court and I agree to accept your witnesses, or accept your judge, or accept these three cowboys' opinion, right? I can also do that with an actual agreement. I'll agree, these three guys over here, whatever they say, I agree I'm going to follow. Okay, you just verbalized it. Okay, I'll do a kinyan. I'll pick up your keeper, you'll pick up my keeper, and then we will then be obligated. If you do that, you can't go back. Once you've made that type of agreement, you can't go back. Just like if I sell my car or my house, once you've done a ma'aser kinyan, you've done an act of acquisition, there's no going back. Our mission is not talking where you did that. Our mission is talking about was a verbal agreement. Now, usually verbal agreements are not binding, but this verbal agreement has got, it's already gone into a level of consideration, meaning we agreed to have these guys judge the case, and then what? They started to judge the case, and then you see, oh, this is going bad against me, I changed my mind. At what point can you still change your mind in the proceedings? If the guys haven't done anything, they just sat down and said, okay, right, let's start. Oh, I don't know, you can't change my mind. So it's just like if I agree to sell my car to you, I can change my mind. If I agree to accept the opinion of these three cowboys, I can also change my mind. But at some point, you won't be able to change your mind.
What's that point?
Oh, so that's the discussion in the Mishnah between Rabbi Leader and the Chacham. If you made a physical act of agreement, means you did the usual pseudo business, you can never change your mind. If you didn't do that, you agreed verbally, and then they started the proceedings, can you still change your mind or not? That's what Mishnah Gimel, Perek Gimel is all about. He said to him, or one of the two parties, I agree that my father should judge. Or Ne'eman alai avicha, I agree that your father should be one of the judges. Ne'eman alai shloisha rei baka, or I trust the opinion of these three cattle herders. Right? Ne'eman alai shloisha rei baka. Trusted upon me, Ne'eman, like I trust, right? Shloisha, three ro'ei baka. Ro'im are shepherds. Like the Lord is my shepherd. Hashem ro'i, Psalm 23, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? A ro'i is a shepherd. Bakar of cattle. They could also be shepherds of sheep, right? Okay, the Gemara has a whole discussion. Why do you talk about shepherds of cattle? Why not talk about shepherds of sheep? Aren't most shepherds of sheep? That's what I call shepherds, right? Because they shepherd sheep, right? Why talk about shepherds of cattle, right? The Gemara's got a whole discussion of why Mishnah chose that. Anyway, I can't remember what it is. Rabbi Meir says as follows: Yochel lachsaba, you can change his mind, right?
What's Bakar?
Bakar are cattle. So they're cattle herders, and those are the guys who obviously don't know anything about halacha, right? We can't read even, right? They're great cattle herders, but they're not big Talmidei Chachamim, okay?
You can change your mind or can't change your mind.
Or again, Reb Meir Omer, Yocha, you can change your mind, right? You can't change your mind. That means once they've given their opinion. Once they've given their opinion, you cannot change. Even though they've given their opinion, you can still change your mind, unless you made some type of act of agreement. A verbal agreement doesn't make you stop me changing your mind. Chacham disagree. You can't change your mind once they've come to a conclusion. Once they've come to a conclusion, says you owe him the money, that's too late. During the proceedings, the Gemara says you can still change your mind. Once they've come to a conclusion, it's too late. Even though you didn't do any act of acquisition. Unless you can prove that they made a mistake. In any court, if you can prove the judges made a mistake, right, then you can go back on the ruling. But just because you say, I agree to accept their opinion and I've changed my mind, you can't do that. If you can prove that they made a mistake, that's another story. Okay? All right. Another example of a very similar idea. We came to court, and the judges came to the conclusion, says, you have to swear to this other guy. There could be lots of reasons why that could happen in a court. I don't think there's a whole Masechta called Shavuos, the whole second half of Shavuos is all about what are the circumstances where the judges will put an oath on somebody. Sometimes you can put an oath and you will only win the case if you make the oath. Or sometimes the oath is a defending oath. It means you'll win unless he makes an oath. You get it? Sometimes the oath is to defend against the plaintiff. Sometimes the oath is to help the plaintiff get the money. There's different cases, right? Sometimes the oath is biblical. Sometimes the oath is a rabbinic enactment. There's lots and lots of different scenarios. But it doesn't make any difference. If the case in the court was the judge said, you must swear. If you want to win. If you don't want to win, you want to lose, you don't swear, right? If you want to win, you have to swear. And if you swear, you'll win. Okay? Okay, fine. But you're a bit hesitant. The guy might swear. And then he'll be swearing falsely. You're going to be in a case to be to blame for him swearing falsely? Right? You get a bit scared, right? So you say, you know what, Dylan? Don't swear, but instead, just make a vow. If you make a vow, you'll win the case. Or you're scared to swear. So you say to him, look, I could swear and win the case, but you take a vow instead. Now, the difference...
win the case if he took
No, if he takes the vow. You agree that if he takes the vow, he'll win. Really, you have the right to win. Okay? But you're prepared because you don't want to take this vow because you're scared about making false vows, right? He may call your bluff, he may not call your bluff, right? It's up to him, right? Right? You may say, now you put on him, right? So he'll say, oh, no, you do it, right? So then, no, it's too late. If you agree. So let's, again, start from the beginning. You have the right to take this oath, right? But instead...
What would an example of the oath be? Like,
I swear that... I'll give you an example. Right? You come to court and claim 100 shekels. He owes you money, right? And you have one witness to support you. You can't win with one witness. One witness, you have to have two. But one witness is enough to make him swear. Meaning, if Dylan wants to be free of that money, you have to swear, I don't owe you the money. I never smashed your window, I never borrowed the money, or I paid you back. Whatever you claim, right? You'll only win if you swear that this will happen. Means you don't have to pay it because you've only got one witness. On the other hand, you're not scot-free because he's got one witness, the independent witness, that you owe the money. So the Torah says, in that case, you swear, and then you'll be exempt. If you don't swear, you have to pay. So if you're scared to swear, or for whatever reason, then you have to pay the money. But if you're quite confident that you're telling the truth, you take an oath, you take a Bible, right? Whatever, you say, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You don't have to say all that, right? And that's it. You have to hold a Bible. The idea of holding a Bible in court comes from the halacha. That's the halacha. It doesn't have to be a Bible. It can be other things as well. For example, when Avraham Avinu was this week's parasha.
He held on.
Avraham Avinu, right, tells Eliezer to go and find a wife for Yitzchak. He wants Eliezer to swear that he's going to...
Oh, under his thigh.
Right, doesn't hold my leg.
Under
right,
his thigh.
Right? And that means, because that's the closest part of the bris milah, that's why.
I thought they would actually hold it.
I know that's what it's called, but I don't think it would.
Really? Because it's like, that's the holiest thing you had at the time. That's how you can have kids. It's like,
I know, but you can't hold it.
really? What? Really?
You're not allowed to touch it.
But it's through your clothing. Like, through your clothing.
You're not supposed to do that either.
What? Oh, because it might...
Yeah, whatever. The same thing why you shouldn't hold it at all. No, it doesn't mean that. It's just euphemism for that. It means that part of the body is the closest part to the reproductive organ.
I wonder if it has any relation to the wrestling and Isaac's thigh or Israel's thigh.
Yes, probably the same thing. Because when it says he touched his thigh, right? That's the part, because what it means, it has an effect on his children. The angel wasn't able to affect Yaakov, but was able to affect his children. Because his children, we talk about the beginning of Parashat Shemais. Listen to this. It says, beginning of Parashat Shemais,
Yaakov struck the angel in that area. Same area.
the angel struck Yaakov.
Angel struck him.
Yeah. But that was his thigh, wasn't it? Because that's the bit of the thing you're not allowed to eat.
The
sciatic nerve.
Sciatic nerve, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Here it says, these are the names of the children of Israel who were coming to Egypt with Jacob, each man in his household. Sorry. Yeah. Pasuk 4. Where is it? And all the persons who emerged from Jacob's thigh. Here they say loins, but it's the wrong word. Yerech is a thigh. They emerge from Jacob's thigh, nothing comes out of your thigh. No, not even anyone's imagination. Doesn't work, right? But that's the way you say it. Because there's no word in Hebrew for the reproductive organ. There is no word in Hebrew for it.
What?
You can say it for it.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just pin, right? That's how you say it, right?
I don't know how do you say it in Hebrew?
That's how they say it.
Peen?
Pin is short for penis.
Yeah.
So if you go to a doctor,
Yeah.
they say pin.
In Hebrew.
In Hebrew. But it's not Hebrew.
What about Zion?
Oh, that just means F.
Oh,
Right? That's what they mean.
That makes a lot
right?
more sense.
No, there's no word for it in Hebrew. According to Rambam, that's the reason why it's called Lashon HaKodesh. What's holy about the language is there's just no word for it. So you have to find ways of saying it. You can say
Dance around.
Aver you can say the reproductive organ. You can say that in Hebrew, right? There's no word for it. You can say that whole sentence, right? So in Hebrew you say Yotze Yerech, they come out of your thigh. You don't really, right? So when Yaakov says when Avram says to Eliezer, hold my thigh, right? So Jacob thinks, well, it doesn't mean hold my thigh, right? But it could mean hold my thigh because the thigh represents that. It's the word used for that, and it's the closest spot. Anyway, that's the idea. So why the thigh? Because Avraham Avinu didn't have a Sefer Torah. There was no Sefer Torah, and there was no Bible in Avraham Avinu's time. The only mitzvah was the mitzvah of Bris Milah, right? And it's not just a mitzvah. You can't just hold any old mitzvah. You can't hold a pair of tzitzis. No, it has to be something with God's name in it, like a pair of tefillin, or a Sefer Torah, or a mezuzah, or the Bris Milah, which is one of the aspects of God's name. Right? Yud, K, Vav, K. That's how it is. The Yud is the connection to God, the Hey is your brain, Vav is your spine, and the Hey is the end of the bris. Is the final Hey. Yud, K, Vav, K. So it's all God's, it's connection with God's name. You swear by God's name. Meaning, as true, this is as true as God. That's what you're saying when you swear. As true as God is, that is. God forbid if what you're saying is not true, you're saying that God is not true. That's why swearing is such an awful thing. Anyway, so now no one wants to swear either rightly or falsely. So what you do, the way easy swear is, you know what? You will tell to him, I agree that instead of me swearing, you can make a vow. Now a vow is not, what does a vow mean? A vow means, if this is true, no, if what I'm saying is not, if my claim is not true, I'll never eat apples again. Now, only you know whether this is true or not true, right? But you now know if you were telling a lie, you're never allowed to eat apples in your life. You vowed that you will not eat apples if what I'm saying is not true. Now, that's not as bad, because you never took God's name in vain. You just made a vow. And if you violated your vow, that's an aveira, right? But that's an aveira, violating a vow. So it's a way of reducing the severity of what the court put on you. Okay? So you can either agree that he should do it, or he can agree that you do it, because he also doesn't want you to make a vow. He wants your money because he claimed your $100 from you, but he doesn't want you to swear, because I swear is an awful thing. Even if you're not the one who swore, it's also like not something you want that someone should swear falsely. And therefore he said, no, don't swear, just make a vow instead. It means instead of swearing it's true, I make a vow that if it's not true, I won't read news or listen to the news anymore. Whatever. And when we decide to take upon yourself something serious. Okay? So now, let's say we agreed upon that. And we shook hands on that. And then you're about to do it. No, I changed my mind. Can you change your mind? Same idea. Can you change your mind from agreeing to lowering the terms in which this court case will be sorted out? So just like the first case was you agreed to have different types of judges, here we're talking about the court case has already been decided. The judges have already decided what you should do. Now you agree amongst yourself to lower the terms. So if you agreed he'll pay 10 shekel instead of 100 shekel, once he's paid you the money, that's too late, right? Here we're talking about where you agreed to a vow instead of an oath. The court put on you an oath, and you agreed that he should make a vow. Can you now change your mind? You saw you were hoping he wouldn't do it, right? And then you see he's about to do it, so no, change my mind. You've got to make your oath. Unless you make your oath, you lose the case. So that's the question of the Mishnah. Good? Let's see inside. If he was obligated to his friend an oath, and he said to him, Dorli. Now the word dor is like a neder. Again, the nun has fallen out. Remember the nun falls out? What do you say it? Yona matzah, right. Yona, the nun's fallen out. Dorli, make a vow instead of an oath. Oath is where you swear by God's name. A vow is just a promise to do something. Bechaye roishcha, by the life of your head. That's just an expression. I vow by the life of my head. That what? That I'm telling the truth. Or if I'm not telling the truth, I won't be able to do something. Rabbi says, you can change your mind. Unless you made an official, again, we're talking about a verbal agreement. If you just made a verbal agreement, Rabbi says you can change your mind. It's too late. This is done in court, and once you agree in court to do this, it's too late. Good? You can't change your mind. Mishna Gimel. This is a Mishnah of the long list of all the people who are disqualified from being witnesses. Because we mentioned beforehand in Mishnah Aleph, you can't disqualify somebody else's witness just because you don't like his face, or you say he's a different type of chosti than you are, right? No, or you don't like the way kippah that he wears. You have to find some substantiate. Either he's related, right, to you, or to him, or to each other. Those are three things. If the witnesses are related to you, the defendant, to the plaintiff, or to each other, they're disqualified. It's interesting. Two brothers can't testify against someone who's not related. Right? They have to be unrelated to each other. I think they're allowed to be related to the judges. I don't think there's any problem if they're related to the judges. I don't think there's any problem if the judges being related to each other either. I don't think so. I don't think there's any problem. Anyway, I'm not sure. Okay? But that's the idea. So now, but there's also, you can disqualify a witness based on his background, if he's dishonest. So what's called a dishonest person? So the Mishnah gives us a list. Basically, the rule is as follows. The rule is anybody who is known to violate commandments for which you would get lashes for, that's like the cutoff point. Where do we get this idea from? The Torah says you mustn't accept the testimony of a witness who's a Rasha. Now, what does the word Rasha mean? Rasha is very vague. It means like Haman a Rasha, Bilam a Rasha. Does it have to be that bad? It has to be Stalin? What do you have to be somebody? So, how do we know? The Torah says somebody else, somewhere else. It shall be when the Rasha deserves lashes. Pasuk in Sefer Devarim. So you see that the word Rasha in the Torah, the minimum requirement to be called a Rasha is someone who deserves lashes. So anything you do that you get lashes for makes you disqualified as a Rasha, and therefore you're disqualified from testifying in court. Okay?
Where do you get the lashes? Or like there's post lashes?
I think it's the opposite. I think once he's received the lashes, then he's okay, because now he's had his kapara, right? So a guy who does these things and he doesn't go to court, or is not being brought to court, or he continues to do it even after having the lashes, right? I'm going to do it again, right? He's defiant of the court, but that's what he does. The guy who does that is disqualified from court. Or he does something which is monetary related, a monetary violation of the Torah.
Monetary violation of the Torah?
Something the Torah says you mustn't do. Now you don't get lashes for it.
Knocking out someone's eye. But
it's something which is a money's involved. For example, if you steal from somebody, you don't get lashes for doing that. If you eat pork, you will. If you machal Shabbos, you will. You'll get lashes. But if you, or lashes or more, lashes or more. Lashes is the minimum. Right, you get killed for Machal Shabbos, but anything which the minimum is lashes, right? But if it's something that you don't get lashes for, not. Unless the thing is monetary related, like stealing. If you steal from somebody, right, don't get lashes for it, but you're still disqualified from witnessing. The reason is simple, because anyone who violates the Torah's commandments for monetary gain is suspect of lying falsely in court for monetary gain. Maybe one of the parties has paid him to lie. A Jew, we don't suspect he's being paid. He's an honest Jew, he keeps the Torah. Why should I think that he's being paid to lie in court? No reason. But if I know this guy violates Torah commandments for monetary gain, there's a lot of reason to think that's exactly what he's doing. He's coming to court. The Torah says you mustn't lie in court. He doesn't care. We know that he does lots of areas he does for monetary. There's probably another one as well. Okay, so those are the two rules. Anything he's a Rasha because he gets Malchus, disqualifies him. Anything that is a monetary related Torah prohibition disqualifies him. What happens if it's a rabbinic monetary related thing? I mean, sometimes the Torah says this is not a violation, but the rabbis say he mustn't do it. But it's still monetary. Is he suspect of, you say, well, he violates rabbinic commandments for money, he wouldn't write a Torah prohibition, and lying in court is a Torah prohibition, so he wouldn't do that. We say, no, once the guy, money speaks to him, he doesn't care, so then any prohibition will not speak to him. So the mission says as follows: these are all the people who are disqualified because of their, if I'm not mistaken, they're all monetary related, all these. Right? Some of them are biblical violations, some of them are rabbinic. Mesachek bekuvia. Mesachek means Mesachek. Read in last week's parasha. When Avraham Avinu made a party for Yitzchak's birth after 2 years, Yishmael was playing with Yitzchak, and Sarah told him to throw Yishmael out of the house. It says Mesachek, he was playing. So Rashi says, what it means playing? Well, they were playing Sudoku. What were they playing? Rashi says it means he was teaching him how to serve Avodah Zarah.
As kids? Babies?
Well, Ishmael was already 14 at the time.
What was teaching him to?
Teaching him, you take these little things, you got them, give him a kiss, and you bow down to it, showing him how to do it. Ishmael was showing Yitzchak Avodah Zarah idol worship. Or was showing him how to shoot arrows at people. You see that? Just shoot like that. Okay, you don't kill them, but he was teaching him how to be rough. And Sarah didn't like this. So he wasn't teaching him how to play football. That's what it means. No. Maybe American football, yes, right? Kill the guy. Yeah? Okay? All right. So mesachek means to play. Kubia is a Latin word which means a cube. Same word. Kubia is a cube. He plays with cubes. Other guys play with the tubes means he's
Playing Lego? Oh, dice.
Dice. What do people do with dice?
Gamble.
Gamble.
Dice games.
So this guy's a gambler. So a guy who's a gambler is disqualified. Because gambling, we'll see, is either forbidden by rabbinic law or by Torah law. One of the two. One of the two. But either way, it disqualifies him from being a witness. Because he's violating a monetary relation. Why is he doing it? Because he hopes to gain money. Right? So it's a money issue. He's violating either rabbinic or biblical law, and that disqualifies him from being a witness. There's a bit of a debate, we'll see. Now, why should a gambler be, what Aver is he doing? Right? So the Gemara calls up this idea, it's called asmachta. Asmachta means when you go into an agreement which isn't really logical. Okay, if I buy a field for him, I agree to give you $10,000. That's a logical. You give me a field that's worth that sort of amount. I'm still going to an agreement. But if I go into an agreement where it's not really logical, for example, I think a good example of this, the Gemara says, I want to hire a field from you, where I'm going to work on the field, and I'm going to give you a percentage of the profits. That was a normal thing, right? Sharecropper, they call it. Right? I'll agree to it's going to, in Hebrew it's called aris. Aris, it's your field, you don't want to work, you want to go off to the Bahamas, right, for 2-3 years, but you need money. So I'll work on your field. I don't have land, but I'm a good hard worker. I'll work on your field. A third of the stuff I give to you, 2/3 I'll keep. That would seem to be normal. A third, a half, a quarter, those are the normal arrangements. Okay? I think the worker got more usually than the owner. That was the standard agreement. A third, I give you a third, or I give you a quarter, or I give you a half, in which case we're half each. Okay? Now, what happens if I don't work? I decide I want to go to Florida. You're in the Bahamas, I'm going to Florida. Right? So then you go into an agreement, you're getting nothing. You don't want to take a risk of you getting nothing out of it. But we agreed you get a third. Now I'm happy to go off. I don't want to work, I want the year off. So I'll get nothing, but you'll get nothing too. So you say, no, I'm not going to this agreement because I'm worried that you're going to. So we write in the agreement, if I don't produce anything for a year, if I don't produce anything, I'm going to give you $100,000. Okay? Now, let's say a normal year produces 30,000 dollars crops. So 10,000 is your third. So normally, a normal you'll get 10,000. When I agreed to $100,000, why did I agree to such a phenomenal amount of money? Why? It's really silly now. Why did I agree to that? It's really not worth that amount. A year's worth. I should have said 10,000 or 15,000. A good year's harvest, because we don't know what it would have been. Let's say a good year's harvest is 45,000. So your third in that is 15,000. Okay. So why didn't I agree to 15? I should have said I'll pay you a good year's harvest, the equivalent of a good year's harvest. If I write that agreement's binding. If I write $100,000, it's not binding. You know why? Because I only wrote it because it was the only way to get you to agree. Okay. I never intended for it to happen. What was I intending to happen? I was intending to work every year. I wasn't intending to go on holiday. I was intending to work every year. You're not going to agree unless I agree to some sort of outlandish agreement. I wrote that, but I never really intended to pay you that money. You both know that. But if I didn't promise to do that, you'd never agree. But it's a way of making a commitment. I really intend to do it. So when you agree to outlandish agreements, there's a debate in the Gemara, big debate in the Gemara, whether it's binding or not. Wow. It's an outlandish agreement which depends on some future event.
No.
You with me?
625.
Okay. All right. I'll come in a second. All right. That is the basic. Now the Gemara's got a whole discussion whether betting is outlandish, because if I get 2 6s, I agree to give you $100. Why? Because those are the rules of the game. But it isn't really fair. What I mean, it's not fair. It's not like you could have worked this field and got $10,000 out of it, or $30,000, and I went off on the holiday. So that's a fair, because I actually caused you a loss by not working that year. So that's a sensible agreement. It makes sense, the agreement. So agreements that really make financial sense are obliging when you make a kinyan, right? Not just your word. You may wrote it down in a contract, that obligates you. But agreements that are unreasonable, according to certain opinions, are not binding. And really, we see betting as an unreasonable agreement. There's no reason why I should pay you $100 just because I got 2 6s. It's true, you also agreed to pay me, and now the thing is like this: if the agreements are not binding, and you force me to pay, then you're actually a thief, because you're not actually entitled to that money. If you get 2 6s, and I say, here's your $100. I don't really feel obligated to give it. I don't really want to give it to you. Just I feel the pressure. I feel the social pressure of giving it to you, and that in a way makes you into a thief for demanding that I pay you the money, and that's why rabbinically you're seen as a thief, and that's what's behind this Mishnah, and that's why it disqualifies you from. Others disagree with this Mishnah, as we'll see at the end. The beauty of the end is going to explain that he disagrees with this Mishnah. He still disqualifies gamblers for a different reason, but not because of that reason, right? Buddha says you're disqualified if that's your whole income, because you're a layabout, not doing any good for the world. Wow. And that itself disqualifies, because guys who do nothing good for the world are suspect of going to court and lying as well. If you do nothing productive in your life, then you have no moral compass, is that the word? Yeah. You have nothing guiding you in your life. What's going to stop you lying in court? But just a guy who every so often gambles, no, I'm a good guy, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I am productive, I just gamble sometimes. So according to Yehuda, that's not a problem, because you're technically not a thief. According to the first opinion,
part-time thief is full.
No, you're not a thief because he holds that type of agreement is binding.
Right.
You're not a thief. That's the debate. Okay, we'll go more into it tomorrow. We'll go over it. Make sure we get it right.